Have you ever stopped to think that some stories are so powerful that they challenge everything we believe? Well, the incredible story of St. Barbara is exactly like that. A narrative that overturns old certainties, disturbs the comforts of routine, and sparks a fire that everyone has, but few know how to light. Just imagine a young woman locked in a tower, imprisoned by her own father, who in turn faces a transformation that goes far beyond the family's control. You may have already heard shallow versions of this story, but here we will reveal details that few know and that can change the way you see courage, faith, and freedom. Are you ready to question everything you think about protection and oppression? What you will see in this video is not just a historical account. It is an invitation to reflect on your own life, the limits that are imposed on us, and the internal battles that we fight every day. St. Barbara did not choose an easy path. She went against expectations, broke with traditions, and faced the hatred of those she loved most. And that is exactly where the controversy lies. Does love protect or imprison? Does true freedom depend on what the world says or what we believe? Get ready, because what comes next may be a shock, a living lesson in resilience and surrender. What if I told you that, in addition to unshakable faith, there is a hidden force that transforms pain into victory and captivity into wings? That the story of St. Barbara is a map for those who want to understand the price of spiritual freedom and the reward of those who do not bow down? Stay with me until the end, because what you will learn here may be the turning point in your journey. And, prepare yourself for the unexpected. Not everything is as it seems, and the truth, as always, is more surprising than any fiction. From a very young age, St. Barbara experienced something that many avoid their entire lives: profound silence. The tower in which she was locked up by her father, Dioscuro, seemed at first glance like a punishment, a kind of luxurious prison where she would be molded according to the wishes of a controlling father. But you see, it is precisely in this type of forced solitude that some souls awaken to something greater. Isolation, which for many would be torment, became for her a spiritual laboratory. There, where the voices of the world could not reach, she began to hear another voice, the one that can only be heard when everything around her is silent. And it is curious how this applies to our lives as well. Have you ever noticed how sometimes we need to get away from the noise to see what is essential? When everything seems to be going wrong, when we are locked in situations we do not want, it may be precisely then that God is calling us inward. Try it. Turn off your cell phone for an afternoon. Sit in a quiet place and just observe what is around you. Listen to the wind. See the sky. Feel the moment. This is how Barbara began, looking at the world with eyes that sought meaning. And it is at this point that something begins to change within us. Restlessness turns into thirst, and thirst into searching. What many saw as a spoiled girl locked away in a tower, God saw as a spirit in formation, being prepared for something great. She read the great thinkers, but her heart went beyond books. She sought answers that human teachers could not give. And what is most impressive is that, even without ever having heard Christ, she already suspected that this multiplicity of gods made no sense. Everything was so organized, so beautiful, so connected. How could several messy gods be the authors of such harmony? And that is where the turning point lies. Because while Barbara was searching, another greater truth was already approaching, in a way that no one, not even she, could have foreseen. What began as a silent search soon turned into a powerful encounter. During her discreet visits to the city, St. Barbara met Christians who lived in hiding, often underground, where the light of faith shone brighter than any golden candelabra. What she had sensed while looking at the sky from the tower now had a name, a face, and a story: Jesus Christ. And that was when everything made sense. The mystery of the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, felt like a missing piece in the puzzle of her soul. It was as if she had finally found the owner of the voice that had been echoing in her heart since her time of isolation. This type of revelation is more common than it seems. How many times do we go around looking for meaning in so many things, in relationships, at work, in material possessions, and nothing fills our hearts? The Christian faith did not come to Barbara with fanfare or spectacle, but with serenity and depth. And this still happens today. There are people who find faith in a conversation with a friend, in a song playing on the radio, in a simple video on the internet. God doesn't need a stage. He uses whatever is necessary to touch the right heart at the right time. And when that happens, my friend, there's no turning back. Barbara didn't just believe, she surrendered herself. She asked for baptism in secret, knowing the risks, but without hesitation. It's like someone who finds a treasure and, without thinking twice, sells everything she has to keep it. She left behind expensive dresses, wedding invitations, elite parties, and all that for something invisible to the eyes, but too real to be ignored. This courageous act teaches us that faith is not just belief. It's a decision, and that, often, embracing the truth requires denying what the world calls success. But this choice, made in the silence of soul, was about to light a fire, and this fire would draw the attention of those who least tolerated the light. The truth, however bright it may be, tends to make those who live in shadow of control uncomfortable. When Dioscuro discovered that his daughter was now a Christian, he didn't just see a change of faith. He saw a threat to his authority, his pride, and his reputation. Barbara's transformation was like a mirror that reflected everything he wanted to hide. His fear, his ego, his desire to mold a daughter in his image. And as many do when confronted with the truth, he reacted violently. The father who once protected her in a tower now pursued her with sword in hand. There is no greater pain than being hurt by the one who should have been your shelter. This type of conflict is still real today. How many people are judged for their spiritual choices within their own family? How many parents don't understand when their children decide to follow a path that goes against their expectations? Barbara's story exposes a wound that many carry, that of living at war with their own blood ties. And yet, she did not back down. She was persecuted, attacked, handed over to Governor Marciano. All of this while remaining faithful to the faith that illuminated her soul. She knew she could be killed, but she also knew that if she went back on her word, she would die inside. And when the heart finds the truth, denying it becomes impossible. Barbara's stance reminds us of something essential. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is fidelity to the truth even in the face of fear. She was taken to court not as a rebel, but as a firm rock in the midst of the storm. And the most curious thing is that the more they tried to bend her, the stronger she became. This shows that faith, when true, does not adapt to the environment. It transforms the environment. And this silent force that bothered the powerful was only beginning to manifest itself. Because what was to come next was not just more persecution. It was something supernatural. When human justice fails, heaven acts. And that's exactly what happened to St. Barbara. After being subjected to brutal torture for 3 days straight, her body seemed to have reached its limit of pain. But there in the darkness of the cell, where hope for many would die, she had a vision that changed everything. Jesus Christ appeared before her, not with words of pity, but with words of encouragement, healing, and glory. He touched her, healed her wounds, and rekindled her strength. It was as if heaven were saying, "You are not alone." And this scene, even so long ago in time, still echoes as a powerful reminder to those who suffer in silence today. Barbara's response to pain teaches us a rare and precious lesson. Suffering, when lived with purpose, can become a platform for miracles. How many people face illness, loss, and betrayal and still keep their eyes turned upward? This is not denial of pain. It is transcendence. And you can apply this to your life right now. Instead of asking why me, try asking what for. Seek comfort in faith. Immerse yourself in reading Psalms such as 27 or 91. Pray sincerely. Share your anguish with people you trust, and look for a purpose even in the most difficult situations. God continues to act where no one else sees a solution. The next day, when Barbara was taken back to the governor, everyone was astonished. Her body was completely healed. No scars, no bruises, no signs of torture. It was as if time itself had been undone. But look at the absurdity. Even in the face of an obvious miracle, the governor preferred to give credit to pagan gods. It's funny, isn't it? There are people who prefer to remain blind even when faced with the light. And this disbelief only fueled the anger against Barbara even more. What was supposed to be proof of divine grace became fuel for more violence. And yet, she remained steadfast, because in her heart there was already a flame burning that could no longer be extinguished. Amidst the savagery of the executioners and the heavy silence of injustice, a new character emerges who changes everything: Juliana. Touched by the firm testimony of St. Barbara, this young woman decided that she could no longer remain silent. She stood up, dared to speak truths that no one had the courage to say, and in doing so, signed her own death sentence. But don't think that this was a reckless act. It was, in fact, one of the greatest acts of faith that anyone could offer. Juliana saw in Barbara not only a martyr in the making, but living proof that truth can be stronger than fear. And when two strong souls unite for something eternal, not even death can separate them. This kind of inspiring courage is something that still moves the world. How many times in real life does someone stand up for another even though they know it could cost them dearly? It's the friend who denounces an injustice at work, the mother who protects her son in front of the school, the woman who decides to break her silence about an assault. These are the testimonies of Juliana of our time. If you've ever been afraid to take a stand, think about this. It is not the noise of the bad that makes evil prevail. It is the silence of the good. And sometimes, the simple act of supporting someone lights a fire in the midst of the coldest cold. Barbara and Juliana were taken to the streets together, amid the shouts of an excited crowd. But what no one imagined was that, inside, those two were walking like queens towards eternity. Juliana was beheaded, and Barbara, with the same serenity she had maintained since the beginning, was also led to execution. But the most shocking detail was yet to come. It was Dioscuro himself who decided, with his own hands, to take his daughter's life. The same hand that had cradled her in childhood now raised a sword against her, a gesture that seemed to mark the end, but which, in fact, prepared the ground for an even more unexpected outcome. What happened immediately after St. Barbara's execution was not just a natural phenomenon. It was a message sent directly from heaven. As soon as Dioscuro's sword took the life of his own daughter, lightning came down furiously from the heavens and struck down his body right there, in front of everyone. There was no time for regret, no explanations, only the thunder of divine justice that tore through the sky in protest. And so, the one who tried to turn off the light was swallowed up by the darkness itself. The people who witnessed it all were astonished. It was as if God himself had signed Barbara's martyrdom with fire. A death that seemed tragic now became glorious. It is amazing how certain moments in history have the power to completely transform the collective memory of a people. Since then, St. Barbara has been remembered as a protector against lightning, storms, and fires. It is no wonder that she became the patron saint of high-risk professions such as artillerymen, firefighters, miners, and all those who live with fire and danger. This is not superstition, it is symbolism. The lightning bolt that struck Dioscuro represents the strength of those who do not accept injustice in silence. When you invoke St. Barbara, you are saying that you will not be dominated by fear, violence, or oppression. You are calling upon courage that comes from above. That tower, which was once a symbol of confinement, became a symbol of liberation. And it is curious how, in life, many places that seem like endings become beginnings. A job that ends can make room for a greater calling. A friendship that ends can reveal your true identity. Barbara died, yes, but her life began there. It is no wonder that to this day her name is whispered by voices asking for protection. Her story told as a reminder that true faith can even pierce the sword of a blind father. And then, when everything seems to be over, it is at that exact point that true eternity begins. We have reached the end of this journey through the incredible life of St. Barbara, and now the question remains, what are you going to do with all this? Are you willing to face your own walls and seek freedom that goes far beyond the physical? Think about the prisons you carry, be they fear, other people's opinions, or even your own doubts. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself if you are living the life you truly want or just accepting what is expected of you? This story is not just about a saint from the past. It is a mirror for our courage, faith, and choices. And now I challenge you, which tower do you need to break? Which deep truth have you been avoiding looking ahead on? Have you ever felt that restlessness that won't leave you alone, that desire to change, but that fear seems to hold back? Know that change begins within, with small steps, such as turning off distractions for a while, seeking out conversations that inspire, and, who knows, making room for a faith that doesn't fit the mold of the majority. What are you waiting for to be the protagonist of your own story? If this message touched you, How about subscribing to the channel right now and turning on notifications? Here, we will continue exploring stories that teach, provoke, and transform. Don't miss out on this journey. I want to know, which part of Santa Barbara's story touched you the most? Comment below and let's join this exchange that can change lives. After all, true freedom begins with a decision, yours.